When the rest of the galaxy abandoned humanity, only the weaker humans remained to respond to the desperate plea for aid against the Zorgo invasion. Jacob Thomas took a sip from his whiskey glass, feeling the burn down his throat, not enough to dull the old memories. His gaze shifted to an Andorian who slid into the seat next to him, sleek blue feathers and a beak marking him as a male Vortis, one of the few still impressed by humans. "So you were there, weren't you?" the alien asked. "When your species saved us all?" Jacob rubbed his stubbled jaw, trying to forget that time when Earth heard the distress signal. "I was there," he admitted. "But whatever stories you've heard don't tell the half of it. When the Council begged for humanity's help, humanity was broken," Jacob explained. "Their best and brightest had killed each other in a war that left their world in ashes. All that remained were drgs like him, the poor and the hungry, deemed expendable by the mighty. But you still saved us," Vortis pressed. "You stopped the Zorgo when no one else could. For a price?" Jacob drained his glass, signaling for another. "And maybe I'll tell you how a bunch of human refugees ended up as the galaxy's unlikely saviors, and how many we lost to give the Council back their pretty little piece." As Jacob grunted his thanks and took a long pull from the fresh whiskey, he recounted the chaotic journey. They crammed into decommissioned freighters that hadn't flown in decades, armed with antique guns and flying coffins. It was chaos, Jacob remembered. Ships exploding left and right, lasers and plasma filling the void, and there we were, a bunch of humans armed with pea shooters. Vor's eyes widened as he asked how they even survived. "Survive?" Jacob laughed. "We did more than that. You see, the Zorgo, for all their advanced tech, had never fought humans before. They didn't know what crazy bastards we could be." A fierce light shone in his eyes as he spoke. "We rammed their ships, boarded them with nothing but guts and fury. We fought in the corridors, in the vents, in the engine rooms. We used our antique guns, our bayonets, our bare hands. And you know what? They weren't ready for that. They weren't ready for the pure, unfiltered insanity that is humanity when its back is against the wall." Jacob chuckled darkly, taking another sip of his drink. "Oh, they were tough, make no mistake. The Zorgo were the toughest bastards I ever faced. They had technology that made our best weapons look like children's toys, and they fought with a ruthless efficiency that was downright terrifying." He leaned forward, his eyes intense. "But we had something they didn't. We had nothing to lose. We were the dregs of humanity, the ones society had cast aside. We had no homes to go back to, no families waiting for us. All we had was each other and a burning desire to prove our worth." Jacob's voice grew louder, drawing the attention of nearby patrons. "So we fought like demons. We used every dirty trick in the book, every underhanded tactic we could think of. We booby-trapped our own ships, sent suicide squads to take out their command centers, even used our own wounded as bait." He slammed his fist on the table, making Vortis jump. "And it worked. Little by little, we started pushing them back. We retook outposts, liberated colonies, even managed to capture a few of their ships. It was like something out of a damn movie." Jacob's eyes grew distant, his voice softening. "But it came at a cost. We lost so many good people, brave people, people who deserved better than to die in some godforsaken corner of the galaxy." He shook his head, draining the last of his whiskey. "But we kept fighting. We had to, because we knew that if we failed, if the Zorgo won, it would be the end of everything. Not just for humanity, but for every species in the galaxy." Vortis leaned back in his chair, his expression a mix of awe and horror. "I had no idea," he whispered. "The stories we heard, they made it sound so heroic." Jacob snorted. "Yeah, well, war ain't heroic. It's ugly and it's brutal, and it leaves scars that never heal. But sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes it's the only way to protect what matters." He signaled for another drink, his eyes hardening. "And that's what we did. We fought and we bled and we died, all to give the galaxy a chance. And in the end, against all odds, we won." Vortis shook his head in disbelief. "But how? How did you finally defeat the Zorgo?" Jacob's eyes glazed over, lost in the haunting memories. "We were holed up in that base for weeks, fighting off wave after wave of Zorgo attacks," he said, his voice low and grating. "They just kept coming, no matter how many we killed. It was like they didn't care about their own losses." Jacob's hand trembled as he reached for his glass, the ice cubes clinking against the sides. "We were running out of everything. Food, water, ammo. The medics were working around the clock, but there were just too many wounded, too many dying." He swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing in his throat. "That's when we came up with the plan. It was crazy, suicidal even, but it was the only way. Jacob's eyes snapped back to Vortis, a fierce intensity burning within them. We sent out a false distress signal, claiming our defenses were down, that we were ripe for the taking. And they fell for it, the bastards. His lip curled into a snarl. They swarmed the base, thousands of them, all eager to claim victory. But we were ready. We'd rigged every corridor, every room with explosives. And when they were all inside, we blew it. Jacob's fist clenched, the knuckles turning white. The blast was indescribable. It shook the very ground, sent shock waves rippling through space. And when the dust settled, there was nothing left. No Zorgo, no base, just a crater where our last stand had been. Vortis leaned forward, his voice a hushed whisper. But how did you survive if you were in the base when it exploded? A bitter laugh escaped Jacob's lips. I almost didn't. A piece of shrapnel tore through my chest, shredded my heart. I should have died there with the rest of them. His hand drifted to his chest, tracing the outline of a jagged scar. But the medics, they wouldn't let me go. They dragged me out, kept me alive long enough to get me to a stasis pod. And when I woke up, I was... this. Jacob gestured to his body, a patchwork of flesh and metal. They rebuilt me piece by piece, replaced what they couldn't save with cybernetics. But they couldn't replace what I'd lost. My team, my friends, they were gone. And I was alone. As Jacob limped away, Vortis sat in stunned silence, his mind reeling from the incredible tale he had just heard. The sacrifices, the losses, the sheer grit and determination of those forgotten humans. It was almost too much to comprehend. Suddenly, a commotion erupted at the bar entrance. Vortis whirled around to see a group of Zorgo warriors burst in, their weapons drawn and ready. Patrons screamed in terror, diving for cover as tables overturned and glasses shattered. But Jacob merely sighed, turning to face the intruders with a weary resignation. I thought I smelled your stench, he growled, his hand drifting to the plasma pistol at his hip. The lead Zorgo snarled, his fangs bared in a vicious grin. Jacob Thomas, you thought you could hide forever. But we finally found you. It's time to pay for what you did to our people. Jacob laughed, a harsh, grating sound that held no mirth. Pay? I've already paid, you bastard. I paid with my leg, my friends, and my soul. But if you want to fight, I'll give you one. In a blur of motion, he drew his pistol, his cybernetic enhancements springing to life. The Zorgo leader roared, charging forward with his warriors close behind. What followed was a brutal, bloody battle that seemed to shake the very foundations of the bar. Jacob fought with a ferocity that belied his age and injuries. His plasma pistol flashed as he took down Zorgo after Zorgo, his metal fists crushing bone and tearing flesh, the enhancements giving him strength far beyond that of a normal human. But even with all his skill and cybernetics, Jacob was still just one man against a horde. A blast caught him in the chest, sending him crashing to the floor in a spray of blood and sparks. The Zorgo leader stood over him, his weapon poised for the kill. But Jacob looked up at him, a defiant grin on his face despite the pain that racked his body. Go ahead, finish it, he challenged. But know this, even if you kill me, you'll never defeat humanity. We'll always fight, always resist, no matter the odds. That's what makes us strong. The Zorgo leader hesitated, then lowered his weapon. No death is too good for you, he spat. I want you to live, to suffer, knowing that your sacrifice was in vain. The Zorgo will rise again, and we will have our revenge. With that, the Zorgo turned and marched out, leaving Jacob bleeding on the floor. Vortis rushed to his side, frantically calling for medical help. But as he cradled the old soldier's head, Jacob smiled, his eyes drifting shut. It's okay, kid. I'm ready. I fought my fight, and now it's up to others to carry on. Just promise me one thing. Never forget. Never forget the sacrifices that were made, the lives that were lost. That's how we honor them. That's how we ensure their deaths weren't in vain. With those final words, Jacob Thomas, the last of the human heroes, breathed his last, his legacy etched forever in the annals of galactic history. If you appreciated this story and wish to show your support, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to our channel. Additionally, for each comment containing 88, I will heart every single one. Thank you for your time.